Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wanted to heal your heart and discover your greatness, then do we have the Your Holiness show for you. Today I'll be talking with Arielle Ford, best-selling author and the sister of Debbie Ford, a brilliant beacon of light and light post for all, and the author of many beautiful books, including a true masterpiece on prayer and a new favorite of mine, Your Holiness. And that's just what I want to talk with Arielle about the power of prayer and discovering the light within. That, plus we'll talk about castles within, forgiving God, chaotic breath, spiritual divorce, James Prague and Minnie, a call from beyond, the importance of heart candy, and why you want to trust in God and shackle the legs of your camel. So welcome back to the show, Arielle. Are you ready to shine?
I am ready to shine.
Woohoo! So before we dive right into things, what happened when James Van Prague offered to do a private reading for you?
Well, Michael, it was beyond amazing. We sat down, my husband and my mother and I sat down at his new home in San Diego a little more than a year ago, and Debbie came through instantly. And the first thing she said was, Arielle, you have to write a prayer book with me. And I said, no way. I don't want to write my own books, let alone write your books. Not possible. And then other dead relatives came through, my husband's parents, my stepfather, we had nice readings. Debbie kept popping in over and over again saying, Arielle, you have to write a prayer book with me. And I kept saying, no way, it's not going to happen. And then at one point, James said to me, who's Minnie? She keeps talking to me about Minnie. And I was shocked. I said, oh my God, James, nobody knows this. In fact, you can't even Google this information. But Minnie is Beau's half-sister. Beau is Debbie's son. And Minnie's not even her real name. That's her family nickname. He said, oh, okay, now it makes sense. Debbie wants you to tell Beau that when he was recently with Minnie, she was there too. Now, what's unusual about this is that Beau at the time was living in San Diego and Minnie lives in London, and they hardly ever see each other, but she was here the week before. So now I thought, okay, James, you're just showing off now. And then, of course, Debbie piped back in, but Arielle, you have to write a prayer book with me. And, as we got to the end of this really long 90-minute reading, I finally said to James, I said, she's never going to give up on this. She's so persistent. You might have to help me because you're the one who can hear her, not me. And he said, oh, well, we'll just figure it out. So finally I said, okay, I don't know how we're going to do this, but we'll write a prayer book. So we're driving home and my husband says, I spent so much time with your sister the last couple of years of her life, taking her to the doctor's appointments and her chemo treatments. And he said, I remember her telling me that she wrote some prayers. Why don't you call her office and maybe somebody there has copies of them, and that at least would be the start of the book. So I'd never heard of Debbie writing any prayers, but I sent her office a one-sentence email, and it said, do you by any chance have copies of any prayers that Debbie wrote? And I get an email back that says, oh, can do better than that. She wrote an entire manuscript. I've attached it. Now, I'm completely freaking out because I was always her literary agent. So the fact that she wrote a book and I didn't know about it was unfathomable. It was just like, how could this happen? But I opened up the document and it was 200 pages, fully edited, brilliantly written, of a book called Your Holiness, Discover the Light Within. And I was just beyond blown away. So I picked up the phone and I called her editor at Harper One. And I hadn't gotten through saying, hi, Gideon, it's Arielle, when he interrupted me. And he said, oh, I'm so glad you called. I've been thinking about you. For the last 4 years, I've been feeling so guilty. Your sister always wanted to write a prayer book, and I always talked her out of it. And I said, well, today's your redemption day. Check your inbox. She did write a prayer book, and I just sent it to you. So 3 days later, he calls me up and we made a deal. They bought the book, and the book is now out. It's called Your Holiness, and it's just, yes, you have your copy. It's just a wonderful book.
And what is fascinating to me on the other side of the mic is we get a pitch for Debbie's newest book, and I'm going, what do you mean, Debbie's newest book?
Right?
And it is brilliant. You know, I've had over 700 different guests on the show, over 800 shows. It is truly a masterpiece. And while she couldn't see the fruits of her labor here in this world, it is phenomenal.
Well, actually, she can. So that's the thing about Debbie. Her body may be gone, but she is still fully here and present and with us, because one of the things we did right before the book came out was I said to James, I said, I really want to interview Debbie about why she wrote this book and what she's learned on the other side. And he said, oh, that would be fun. I said, and can I videotape it? And he said, sure, of course. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to videotape it just because I can't remember everything.
Mm-hmm.
So we sat down, we put up one little camera. It's really low production, no value, no high quality value. But I interviewed Debbie for a half hour, and what she came through with was so brilliant and so amazing that we're now giving away this video to anybody who buys the book at debbieford.com. And not only that, not only do you get this cool video with her, we also have a whole bunch of audio meditations that are part of the bonus package, and the chance to win a free reading with James Van Praagh, which you can't put a price on because you can no longer pay him for readings.
Woohoo! So, Thank you. So let's go back. Let's go back in time. Actually, let's go way on back real briefly. What were your earliest memories with your sister?
My earliest memories?
Yeah.
I guess when she was a toddler and just starting to walk, she was a round, chubby, roly-poly little thing, which was funny because she grew up to be very skinny and scrawny, but she was fat. She was just a little porker when she was a toddler. And she was a drama queen. Her nickname was Sarah Bernhardt, after the famous dramatic actress, because she was very dramatic. And, you know, if Debbie was in the room, nobody else got any attention because she was just loud and crazy and fun and funny.
And what was life like then? I can almost imagine life like growing up together then.
Well, there were different phases of it. So when she wasn't really talking and she was just, you know, being a cute toddler, she was cute and fun. Once she learned how to talk, it kind of got contentious because she was always very verbal and she was always getting into all my stuff and she was very demanding. So, you know, we had our ups and downs, I would say.
Thank you. And did you have a sense of inner spirituality or that anything that hinted that both of you would be on this path later in life?
Not a clue. No.
There
was no inkling of it.
Were there inklings of the reverse? I often look at life as the flip side of the coin. One side of the coin leads to the other side. Were there challenges early on that ended up, because we'll be talking about it in a minute, Debbie had some major challenges later on in life. Were there things that were preludes to that? You
know, I don't really know how to answer that, but here's what I will tell you. She always had leadership qualities, because by the time she was 4 years old and she was walking around the neighborhood, wherever Debbie went, there was a crowd behind her following her. So her entire life, people were just drawn to her and wanted to be part of her posse.
Very, very cool. So let's go from there. We're going to dive into the book or talk about Debbie's journey a little bit. And maybe you can share what happened and how she ended up in her 4th drug treatment center.
Sure. So I like to describe Debbie as one of the world's most successful drug addicts, because from the time she was 12 till she was 28, she was a drug addict. But at the same time, she was a very successful entrepreneur, and she had a string of women's clothing shops, and She designed her own line of clothing, and she lived in an amazing condo overlooking the ocean in Miami Beach, and drove a convertible Porsche, and had a following of people who went out with her every night, all night long, to the nightclubs in Miami in the 70s.
Yeah.
And there was a point where she became aware that if she didn't handle her drug issue, it was going to kill her. And she went to 3 different 28-day treatment centers. Mm-hmm. But on the 10th day of each center, she would always leave. She'd check herself out, she'd run away, and she'd go find some drugs. But then, after the 3rd treatment center, there was a day when she realized that she had gone through a jar, a prescription jar of 1,000 Percodan pills and a whole mess of cocaine. And she'd gone through all of it in less than 2 weeks. And she was actually so embarrassed that by the quantity of drugs she was using, that she says she was too embarrassed to even call her drug dealer. And then at that point, she knew that she was near death, that if she didn't do something, she wasn't going to make it. So she checked herself into a 4th center. Mm-hmm. And when she got to day 10, the feeling of needing to flee was there again. But rather than go out the front door, she locked herself in a bathroom. And she got on her hands and knees on what she describes as a filthy, dirty floor, and cried and sobbed hysterically, simultaneously praying to God to give her the strength and the courage to stay one more day. And during the course of this prayer, she felt a sense of calm and peace come over her, and she knew she could do one more day. And that became the start of her love affair with God and the beginning of a daily practice of prayer, asking for the strength to get her through this really difficult time in her life. So the book, Your Holiness, really begins with that scene of her at her lowest point. But then what the book does, which is really so fascinating, because we call it a prayer book, and it is filled with her original prayers and prayers by Emmett Fox and Marianne Williamson and Yogananda and Rumi. But it is so much more than a prayer book, because it weaves her life story, her narrative, through each chapter, and how she used prayer to solve her problems and to grow her confidence and her self-esteem and to get over her issues. And then at the end of each chapter, she gives you very prescriptive things that you can do in your own life. So of the 10 books that she's written, I really believe this is the best and the most important of all of her books.
And I absolutely love it. And for that guidance, I'm a how-to guy. I don't want people just to have their soul lifted. I want to then give them the steps so that they can be disciplined and take action on a daily basis. It's a word that Debbie uses, rigorous, so that they can step forward into themselves. So let's talk of some of the themes in her book. First off, since she had this laying on the floor there, maybe it's the best place to start. What's a shift in consciousness?
Well, I think it's when you can change your point of view, about anything. So if your point of view is, I'm unlovable, but you do an exercise to prove that that's not true. Like the exercise I always give my students is, well, let's sit down and make a list of the people that that do love you and that you love. Maybe it's your parents, your kids, your siblings, your best friend, your coworkers, your neighbors, your cats, your dogs. Just sit down and make that list. Okay, now, is it true that you're unlovable? No, it's not true. So right in that moment, you can have a shift in consciousness. You can change your point of view because there's evidence that you are lovable.
Woo!
Woo! Yes.
What does she mean, alignment with our holiness?
For me, what that means is stepping into the part of us that is God, the part of us that is our most divine self. So just like we've heard that every drop of water is a part of the ocean, a part of the whole, so are we a drop of God, a drop of the divine. So when we can use our heart and our mind to merge and to meld and to what I like to think of as floating in the ocean of love and mercy,
Ooh, beautiful.
then we are in alignment.
Thank you. And one of the big themes of hers, and I think particularly here, humbleness and humility.
Yes, and when I did the video interview with her, that came up quite a bit, that really what's missing for so many of us is to be humble, because as human beings, our egos so get in the way of being connected to our most holy self, being connected to the divine. And she says the word ego really stands for edging God out. But when we can open our hearts and open our minds and surrender to the part that we are not bigger, better than anything or anyone, but we are just a piece of the most holy, then that's where happiness and joy resides.
Woohoo! And again, on that flip side of the coin, she also says to know God is to know ourselves in the highest and purest form.
Yes, because if God is all love and all possibility, and if we are a piece of God, which we are, then we are all love and all possibility. And it's our job to not only remember that, but to clear out of the way all that is not love.
What does that mean?
Well, this was the essence of her shadow work, because as human beings, we are good and kind and compassionate and loving and generous. And we are also angry and mean and devious and out of integrity and, jealous. We have these negative traits. And when we are in denial of what she would call our shadow, whether it be the dark shadow or the light shadow, then we are not whole. We are not healed, because we have to learn to accept that we are the gestalt of all of this. I am both an angry bitch and a loving, kind being, and there are gifts in both. And what happens, particularly with people who consider themselves spiritual or interested in personal growth, is they do what we call a spiritual bypass. Well, I'm not angry. No, in fact, I'm going to prove to you I'm not angry, because I'm going to be so sweet and so kind, and I've got this wonderful nice girl act or nice guy act. But the truth is, if you're not dealing with your anger consciously, it is leaking out all the time. People will feel it, and you will draw to you angry people in your life who you tank. They're constantly exploding and being angry, because not only are they responding to their own anger, they're highly sensitive and they're expressing your anger. So if you want to be a grown-up, an emotionally mature adult, and you want to consider yourself spiritual, you have to deal with your own anger. You have to let it surface and find appropriate ways to dissipate it.
She talks about later in the book having I think it was a part of Forgiving God, where they're at a retreat. There are 100 people there at this talk. There's music going, and she's having everybody express, blindfolded, expressing their anger and expressing.
Listening to Nine Inch Nails while they're doing that.
Oh, dear Lord. And what happened to Nine Inch Nails?
I don't know, because I don't follow heavy metal rock.
No. I mean, in the story, they're all listening to the music, and the music.
It stopped. Yes, it stopped. The music stopped. Yes, because we need safe places like that. Like I have friends that are my venting partners, and I use them a lot now that certain people are in control of the government, because I just get so enraged. And even though I know Debbie's dark side works so well, I have not yet been able to embrace certain qualities that I'm seeing on the TV every day. So it's an ongoing battle. And at one point I want to make, because I know your audience is particularly sophisticated when it comes to self-help and how-to and personal growth. So here in my 65 years on planet Earth, having read most of these books, having worked with the people who wrote them, having attended 1 million workshops, there is no end game to what we do as seekers. Okay? You are never going to be healed. Now, this doesn't mean you're not going to be happy, And it doesn't mean that you're not going to learn excellent tools and techniques to manage the stuff for when your buttons get pushed.
Mhm.
But you came in with core issues. And no matter how much you work on them, there will be days when they surface. And you can't make yourself wrong. You just have to use your spiritual toolkit to manage the stuff that is your deepest wounds. Because I know so many people out there go and they try something and they go, well, it helped this, but it didn't help that. So it didn't really work. And they're making everything wrong, as opposed to understanding what's really true for all of us. We're just imperfect, and that's normal, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And if you were perfect, you'd have no friends. Nobody would want to hang out with you if you were perfect, okay? We love the imperfections of other people, at least the ones that we feel safe with, right? So this whole striving to get completely healed or to reach perfection is just what I call a mind.
So, well put. And if you are, there's a big concept in here as well, self-love. And if you are trying to achieve perfection, then if you look at the other edge of the sword, you're not loving yourself for who you are, even in the muck of it.
Yes, and this I come up with all the time, because the people who come to me are majorly single women looking for love. And they're all with this crazy myth that, well, until I love myself madly, nobody else can love me. Nothing could be further from the truth. Now, if you're into 100% self-hate and self-loathing, yes, okay, you're not ready for a relationship. But if you're just the normal amount of beating yourself up, oh, I'm such an idiot, oh, I shouldn't have done that, oh, I need to lose 20 pounds, oh, I wish I hadn't had that extra donut, you know what? Your soulmate's out there looking for you, okay? And the truth is, the deepest soul level healing that's available to human beings is that of being happily married to your beloved. Because when this person who loves you so much, when you see that love in their eyes, nothing will heal you faster. There's no amount of therapy that's going to do for you what a great relationship can do. And you don't have to be the perfect weight to find love. You don't have to have a certain amount of money to find love. All you really need to do is get visible and be open, willing, and available, and love's possible for everybody.
Woohoo! That step sounds so simple, but it's not, is it? How do we become open, willing, and available?
Well, funny you should ask. I actually have a 12-week course about to start. It's for women only. It's called The Love Codes. And I'm teaching it with the amazing Claire Zammit, the founder of Feminine Power. And over this 12 weeks, we give you all the skills and tools you need. So that includes all the emotional release stuff, letting go of your old story, your limiting beliefs about what's possible about love, the reality about how today in 2018, it's never been easier to find love. We show you how to do that. We teach you how to understand men, how to talk to men. We teach you how to date. We give you every skill that you need over these 12 weeks. And we bring in master teachers as well, people like John Gray and Evan Marquez and Allison Armstrong. And it is the most comprehensive course ever. We taught it last year for the first time, and the results were beyond spectacular. I had to go get a license to officiate weddings because I'm called to do so many now. And, if you want information on it, there's just a simple website. Just go to Soulmate Passion 44, soulmatepassion44.com, and you can learn about this course. But if you're single and you don't want to be, I can get you where you want to go.
Thank you. That's so important for people. So let's talk a little bit here about nourishing our faith. What does it mean that we want to take time each day? And you had mentioned earlier that she would take time in prayer each day. How do we nourish our faith daily?
Well, I think we have to figure out what that is for us. So for me, this is what I call being a pleasure puppy.
Cool.
All right. So when I make my to-do list every day, the number one item on that list is pleasure. Now, why do I want to have pleasure? And what I'm going to tell you now is true for women, not true for men, but at the end, I'll wrap it up for men. So women are stressed out. What are they stressed about? Life, their relationship, their finances, their aging parents, their sick kids, the noisy neighbor. There's a million things they're stressed out about. On top of that, they're carrying the stress of everybody around them, and they're living in an environment, in a world that is at an all-time stress high. So if you're a highly sensitive person, an HSP, not only are you freaked out about your own, you're freaked out about the rest of the world too. Now, what happens when we're so stressed out? For women, our oxytocin levels tank. Oxytocin is known as the super glue of love. It's the love bonding hormone. So what can we do about that? We can rebuild our oxytocin levels. And the fastest way to do this is by having a daily practice of pleasure. So what brings a woman pleasure? It could be getting a massage, a foot rub, having your hair done, getting a manicure and a pedicure, having a glass of wine with girlfriends, getting a 20-second hug, petting your cats and dogs, listening to inspiring music, doing acts of service for others, donating money. There's just this huge, long list of what you can do. For me, I take at least one bath every day, an aromatherapy bath. I will get a foot rub twice a week. I will play with my cats every chance I get. And if I don't have a lot of time or I don't want to spend any money, I will go shopping online and I'll fill up my cart. And then instead of checking out, I'll just shut the whole thing down, because just the act of looking and choosing builds oxytocin. I didn't even have to buy anything. And if I'm really busy, I'll just turn on my playlist and I'll listen to Andrea Bocelli sing the prayer for 4 minutes, and that will do it. So that's how women can be pleasure puppies, all right, and reduce stress. Now, for men, it's different. Men don't need to increase oxytocin. They need to rebuild testosterone. So one of the fastest way to do this is to chop wood. But if you're not chopping wood, exercise. Or you can sit at home in the Barker Lounger and watch Sports Center with your favorite alcoholic beverage. You know, if you're at work and you're really stressed out, go run up a flight of stairs. You can have sex by yourself or with your wife. All of those are testosterone building things. So women out there that are listening, if your husband comes home from work and you can see that he's totally stressed out, the number one thing not to do not do this, do not ask him how he's feeling. In fact, you should never, ever ask a man how he's feeling. You can ask him what he's thinking, but don't ask him how he's feeling. What the smart thing to do would be is say, listen, if you want to go for a run, I'll see you when you get back. Or here's the remote control. Go sit down and catch up and see what the Rams are doing or whatever. And give them a chance to rebuild testosterone. He'll be indebted to you forever, forever grateful. And then he'll talk to you about his day later. But please don't ever ask a man how he's feeling, number one. And number two, never ask a male over the age of 5 if you can help them. Okay? Don't ask them. You know, don't say, oh, I can see you don't know how to make this happen. You know, what if you see they're struggling with something, you can sort of lightly say, hey, if you ever need any help with that, let me know, and then leave the room. But for the most part, don't turn them into little boys. The third thing I want to add, since I have the platform here, what do men want more than sex?
Oh, geez. This has got to be some sort of a trick question. What do men want more than sex?
Yes. Well, according to a survey of 1,000 men, 78% would choose respect over sex.
Yeah.
But women don't know that. And then they yell, scream, nag, moan, and complain and say, well, why doesn't he listen to me? Because they're being loud, angry, and disrespectful. Because there are ways. to get anything you want from any guy if you know how to talk to them, when to talk to them, and the tone of voice and the words to use. And all of that is in actually my last book called Turn Your Mate into Your Soulmate, where I actually give people scripts on how to have those conversations.
Woohoo! It's making me think of an interview I had with John Gray about a year ago. And on the same topic, and how if you want a healthy, happy male, you have to let him have some testosterone. And so,
well, where do you think I learned all this? John is my super love guru. I mean, really, everything that I know, well, not everything, but a lot of it is, totally from John Gray. I think John Gray is a living master of love. I worship at the feet of John Gray.
He's awesome. And so if we are going to hug in this household, and I love hugs, I can only give a hug if she asks for it so that I'm doing it for her. I can't be doing the hug for me. If I'm doing the hug for me, my oxytocin goes up, my testosterone goes down. But if I'm being manly and I'm giving the hug for my wife, then it's a good thing.
Yes, I always ask my husband for hugs. I do. And you can ask anybody for a hug that's close to you, and it's a wise thing to do. So giving hugs and getting hugs is really good.
Woo! So let's go from hugs and pleasure puppies to cleansing our consciousness. What does that mean?
Well, just like you would clean anything, it's a process of letting go of what's old and dirty or nasty and doesn't work. So in the book, there's a whole chapter of doing what Debbie calls a consciousness cleanse with step-by-step instructions on how to let go, how to let go of what isn't working for you.
So if we're talking about letting go and we're talking about self-love and compassion and building ourselves up in a sense, what do we do if we're internally at war with ourselves? We're really tearing ourselves apart.
Yeah, so that's why I recommend having a spiritual toolkit so that you can do it. So, of course, I have those days all the time where there's something that's pushed my buttons or really got me going. And I have a variety of things that I use, one of which is EFT tapping, which I find to be super effective and very fast. Or I'll do the Sedona method, which is a self-talk method. Or I'll go for a walk so I can get myself to neutral. Or I have posted behind me, which you can't see, Don Miguel Ruiz's The Four Agreements. And I'll look and see, have I made an assumption? Am I taking something too personally? I'll ask myself those questions. So it's really about emotional management. And as mature adults, it's our job to emotionally manage ourselves. And if we're plugged in by another human being, the best thing to do is take a time out. Don't get reactive. Don't get angry. Don't say things that you're going to regret later. Go and first use your spiritual tools. Get yourself into a neutral heart space. Try and look at where you have some responsibility in the altercation that happened. Maybe you do and maybe you don't, but it's worth a look. And then go back and in a really kind, loving, respectful, gentle way, talk things through.
Woohoo! Do you have in your spiritual toolkit a tool that we can begin to use for self-forgiveness?
Self-forgiveness. I would say it's all of the same thing. Maybe the other one would be Ho'oponopono, which is a Hawaiian prayer where you can do it. Let's say you and I are having a disagreement and I have all this judgment about you. I would imagine that you and I were one. I would hold you close to my heart and I would close my eyes and I would repeat to myself over and over, I love you. Thank you. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. I'm sorry. And I don't understand why it works, but having used it for years, there's magic in those four statements while understanding that at the quantum level, you and I are one. So I am healing me and I'm also healing you and I'm healing the situation.
I love it. It's my all-time favorite for self-forgiveness. And if somebody comes to me and they have like a problem with a boss, a coworker, even a pending lawsuit, I'm like, drop the coin in of the other person into your heart. Go to Ho'oponopono. Do it till it hurts. It won't hurt anymore because love is the ultimate renewable resource.
And that's when I first used it. I had a meeting coming up. I had sold a business. It had been acquired by a big publicly traded company. And I was having a meeting with the big boss for the first time. And he had a very scary reputation. And I had heard stories, and I had a lot of prejudgment about what was going to happen and who he was. Mm-hmm. So for 3 days before the meeting, I just kept doing the Ho'oponopono. And I have to say, when I got to the meeting, it was just exceeded all my expectations. He was very, I wouldn't say he was super loving, but he did give me a hug, and he was very reasonable. Mm-hmm. And I ended up walking out of there with a salary and benefit package that exceeded all my expectations. So I can tell you this shit works.
Woohoo! So let's go from there. What did Debbie mean, I am that?
I'm not 100% sure. My interpretation is when you say, I am that, I am here, I am that, I'm part of you, I am that, I'm part of the world, I am that. So there is nothing that I am not a part of, because as we know in the field, in quantum science, there's a couple of things that are generally accepted by all quantum physicists. The first is there is no time. There's just this now moment. There's no past, there's no future, there's just now. Another one is that in the field, on the unseen plane, we are already connected to everything and everybody. So in my soulmate work, the way I would explain this is that your soulmate is not missing, because on the quantum field, in this now moment, you are already connected. You can begin the relationship right now, today, by closing your eyes and talking to them. Now, you don't know when they're going to show up in the 3D world on the physical plane, but it doesn't matter. You can start a heart connection right now in this moment.
Thank you. On that note, I'm thinking about in this now moment and your connection with your sister. How did that shift or change, or where is it now since that first meeting with James?
Well, I had been in touch with her almost from the moment that she passed because of James, and he is a dear friend of ours, of both of ours, for decades. So between him and other mediums, there was this ability to communicate with her. However, and this was now 5 years ago, in the first couple of years, there was this really intense and very painful physical loss. Like, where is she? So in my head, well, I know where she is. I know she's okay. But in the real world, it was like, I hate this. Why can't I be with her? So there was this longing. And after the reading with James, when the book was discovered, that sort of healed that part of it, because I suddenly knew with certainty that even though I couldn't text her, I couldn't call her, there was a level on which we were even closer than we had been when she was here. And I was talking to Marianne Williamson about this very recently, and I said to her, because Marianne wrote the foreword to the book, I said, it's so strange, but it's kind of like we're even closer now. And she laughed and she said, somebody once asked Yoko Ono after John Lennon died, what's it like for you now that he's gone? And Yoko Ono said, well, before he died, we were together 90% of the time. And now we're together 100% of the time.
Wow. Why did she write this book?
She wrote this book because she discovered what worked for her. she discovered that by having a connection to God and having a connection to your highest, most divine self was the answer to every problem. So she wrote this book as a very prescriptive book for anybody who's dealing with a hard addiction, a soft addiction, no addictions at all, but self-doubt or self-hate or integrity issues or procrastination issues or lack of purpose, don't know what my career is issues. There's almost nobody out there who wants to be happier and to have a better life that isn't a fit for this book, because she very specifically and compassionately shares a process that's beyond simple and easy. And the other thing that you may have noticed when you read the book is that she literally coded the book with love. So you can read the words on the page, but you can feel it as much as you read it.
I think that's something that's very special about it, because it resonates. It's something you can open to any page,
right,
and feel better about yourself.
And I tell people, when you get Your Holiness, definitely read it front cover to back cover first time. But after that, you can just use it. If you have a question, if you have a problem, if you have an issue, if you just want to be inspired, randomly open to a page, and what you're looking for will be there. I do it every day. Let's do it right now. Okay, let's see what the message from Debbie is right now.
All right.
I have to put my glasses on, sir.
Very
She
good.
says, the powerful process of prayer. Prayer brings about the gradual expansion and unfolding of our awareness. When we pray, we use our words, our will, our heart, and our intention to go beyond our mind. We recite sacred words to open up the channel through which we experience God. But what does it take to let prayer in, to have it resonate within us, so that we become open and receptive to achieving the essence we are seeking? To understand this, we must explore the precise steps that unfold when we engage in the process of prayer. And that's the start of that chapter. So she just answered the question you just asked.
Woohoo! And what would Debbie say, or what would you say? So Debbie is one, and you are certainly one as well, who has achieved a level of greatness, in quotes, of being able to help and shift the world. You are shining your light so bright. Do we all have this light inside of ourselves?
I think we all have the same light, and then the form just changes. I never in a million years anticipated that I would have written 11 books and I would spend my days teaching people how to find love, keep love, and be love. That was never a plan of mine, and yet it evolved. And it evolved because I just kept surrendering to learn what I most needed to know. And as I learned things and people would ask me about them, then I would write a book about it and I would share it. And the same thing for Debbie. Debbie went on this journey because she wanted to fully heal the part of herself that was an addict. So at the time she got out of the last treatment center, she was going through the 12-step programs and going to Narcotics Anonymous meetings. This was a time in my book PR days when I was representing Deepak Chopra, Marianne Williamson, Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay. So I had access to all of their earliest work, and we're talking the early 90s. And I would always send her cassette tapes of the ones that I thought were most interesting. And there was one Deepak tape that I had sent her, and she listened to it several times. And she said, I was listening to this tape, and Deepak's talking about how the body regenerates every cell in the body. The stomach regenerates in 5 weeks. And at the end of 7 years, there's not one cell in your body is the same that there was 7 years ago, or whatever it was. And she said, I understand that you could have stage 4 cancer and go into total, complete healing. She said, so if that is true, and I believe that that's true, then for me to stand up at an NA meeting and say, hi, my name's Debbie and I'm an addict, feels inauthentic. She said, I need to discover the root cause that led me to addiction and allow myself to fully heal. And that's when she enrolled in JFK University and got her degree in transpersonal psychology and learned the work of Carl Jung and many others and began to synthesize and create her shadow work, her dark side work, because it was first and foremost not for the world, but for her own healing. And when it became clear that what she had worked for her, then she began to step out and share it with the world.
Woohoo! This is a good segue to, I guess my next question is, how do we all begin to reclaim our light out of the darkness?
You know, I would say two things. If you're dead serious about this, like if you really want to go deep dish, then sign up and do the shadow process. You can go to debbieford.com and learn about this weekend process she created, because it still lives on. She trained people to lead the process after she was gone. And it is very deep, intensive work. And you learn and discover how to love and embrace and find the gifts in both your dark shadow and your light shadow. I would also start with her first book, which is still her biggest book, The Dark Side of the Light Chasers, which really tells her story in detail and explains in detail how to dust off your light and embrace your light.
Woohoo! You mentioned a few minutes ago surrendering to what we need to know. You said that you both had to surrender to what we need to know. How do we do that?
Well, it's not easy. I mean, there's a paradox. You know, the willful part of us wants to constantly be in action and doing to make stuff happen. And that's an important thing to do. But we also simultaneously have to be surrendered and not attached to outcome. So it's this balance of understanding that I have a desire. Okay, so let's say my desire is to find a life partner. Okay, now I know that if I sit home by myself watching the Kardashians, FedEx is not going to deliver my soulmate. I know that I need to get out and do something. Okay, but at the same time that you're getting out and doing something and you have a plan or you're going to make a plan, you also have to stay detached and surrendered and know and trust that at the unseen level, you are already connected to your beloved, that the one you're looking for is also looking for you, and that you don't get to dictate the how and when and where it happens. So it's this constant place of being here in the moment. I am love, I am loved, I have love, love is not missing. And also moving forward to make sure that your beloved can find you. And it's not easy to do. This is why I teach the courses that I do, because I want people to have the skills and the tools to be in action and simultaneously have the spiritual faith and trust and knowing and belief that what they've asked for is already theirs.
Woohoo! Call it the two-step dance. On that note, what is a commitment, or the importance of a commitment, or what Debbie calls a holy commitment?
Well, that's really about staying in integrity with yourself. You know, so if you say, I am committed to really taking care of my body, right? So we know, what does that require? Well, that means feeding and fueling your body with foods that are good for it, foods that are good for your particular kind of body. We know that means you need to move your body, that exercise needs to become as much as a habit as brushing your teeth. You know, it means you have to stay aware of the people you surround yourself with. You know, are you surrounding yourself with people who are abusing you emotionally or physically, or you're surrounding with people who uplift you and inspire you and support you? So I think that's really the best definition.
Thank you. And a really fun term of hers, what is heart candy?
Heart candy. Well, I think that was Debbie's word for things that are more lighthearted and fun and are nourishing and uplifting to your soul. Things that really make you feel good about you.
Woohoo! Can you tell us, what advice would you give, or would Debbie give, to help parents with their kids today?
I'm not a parent, so I'm very careful not to give parents any advice at all. Um, you know, I watched Debbie raise her son Bo, who's turned out to be a magnificent human being. And really, what I noticed was that that she always told him the truth.
Mhm.
She was always very honest and open with him. And when she was with him, she gave him her full attention. So she wasn't, on her smartphone checking her text messages while he was trying to talk to her. So she gave him her love, her time, and her presence. And she also deliberately didn't date for many years because she knew that, she only had a certain amount of time with him before he grew up and went away. And she didn't want to be distracted. Wow. Because her career was big enough and kept her moving enough. And then the other thing that she did that was so brilliant, and this is really for divorced parents, because she and Bo's dad got divorced before he was even 18 months old. Mm-hmm. She made a conscious choice to be best friends with her ex and to create the best possible co-parenting situation. And out of that came her book, Spiritual Divorce. And they were best friends, and they did raise Bo together. And I think of all the stuff she achieved, that was one of her greatest achievements, was raising Bo and having a great relationship with Bo's dad.
Woohoo! On that note, what personally brings you the greatest happiness, or what I call the woohoo factor?
Oh, I'd have to say my husband and soulmate, Brian. He is just a heart chakra on legs. He's just deeply loving and compassionate and caring, and he's fun and he's funny and he's quirky and he's as strange as I am.
And how did you meet Brian?
Oh, you don't have enough time to hear that story. That's the whole reason I got into this business. I used the law of attraction to manifest him, and I did such a good job that it turned into my book, The Soulmate Secret, which has now turned into the career that I have today.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So on that note, a perfect segue, where can people go to find out more and to find Your Holiness and your upcoming program?
Okay, I'm going to give you 3 websites. So
all right.
Go to debbieford.com, debbieford.com, and all the information about the books and events and how to interact with her institute, all right there.
Yep.
And then if you do get the book, you'll get all the cool bonuses, the videos, the audios, all that sort of stuff. If you're really ready, willing, open, committed to finding your soulmate, go to soulmatepassion44, soulmatepassion44.com. Mm-hmm. Or if you just want to know more about me, go to soulmatesecret.com, soulmatesecret.com, and there's lots of free goodies there. There's even a tab called Free Stuff.
Fantastic. And if you didn't catch debbieford.com, soulmatepassion44.com, and soulmatesecret.com, come on over to inspirenationshow.com and we'll get you over to debbieford.com, soulmatepassion44.com, and soulmatesecret.com. Before we do wrap up with a quick prayer of Debbie's here, was there one homework assignment? If I took off my coaching cap and I put it on you today, one homework assignment that you would give to help people today?
Yes. I would like them to understand the differences of what kind of prayers there are. Because I grew up thinking that prayer was, oh, dear God, please send me a brand new convertible BMW, a prayer of solicitation. Mm-hmm. And what I've since learned is that real prayer is all about gratitude. So let's say I wasn't feeling well, my back was hurting or something. My prayer would be, dear God, I am so grateful for the healing of my back. I am so grateful that I'm healthy and strong and fit and feeling great. I am so grateful that I have this wonderful, really amazing physical body to go through life in. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Woo! And thank you. So would you have a brief prayer of hers you wouldn't mind sharing with us?
Let's see. Which prayer of Debbie's should we look at? Here's a really short one that I love. Dear God, open me up so that I may know you. Show me your sweetness in the smiles I see. Open me up to the love that you are, while you awaken me to the love that I am.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Arielle. This has been a true pleasure and a treat. Are there any last words of wisdom you want to share with people today?
Yes, keep watching Michael. He's got good stuff for you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And keep coming over to Arielle's work as well. You have great stuff for them as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, get your holiness, and begin diving into your inner wisdom and greatness today. And shine bright. Woohoo! Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like below. Also, leave your comments. Have some real fun with it. Subscribe to our channel where you're going to get more great videos, more interviews coming up. And check out our website, inspirenationshow.com. That's where you'll find tips, blogs, information, videos you won't find anywhere else, and useful and helpful resources to really help you kickstart your life and to shine bright. Thanks so much again. Thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe. See the website. Thanks so much and have fun. Of course, shine bright. Woohoo!